first practice of the year. What's the level of excitement getting back with the guys and hopefully getting out there and playing some ball outside before the season starts?
Yeah, you know, like traditionally at this time of the year, we're always like inside until our first series. So to be able to be outside all weekend and hopefully through like next Wednesday, it's big for us.
For those who don't know, on paper, what can be good about this year's Creighton team, you think?
I think we have a lot of like pitching coming back. We have some key bats in our lineup coming back, and defensively, like, you know, we're always going to be solid defensively.
You personally, what was your goal to get better in the offseason specifically at?
Just to continue to refine, not worry so much about other hitters, just worrying more about like me and what I can get better at in order to be effective this spring.
What did it mean to get the honor of preseason pitcher of the year for a conference that obviously has lots of talented pitching?
You know, it's great. Like, I don't look too far into that. I'm always like looking for ways to get better, but I'll take it, I guess.
The fact that you kind of established yourself here and established yourself in the conference, does any pressure come with that? Do you put any extra pressure on yourself knowing that kind of everybody's going to be looking towards you, not just on this team, but in the league as well?
No, not really, no. I just focus on like what I can control day in and day out, so I try not to put too much pressure on myself, for sure.
For those newcomers coming in, what's maybe some advice you would give to them that you wish you had gotten or that you did get as a freshman?
Just to enjoy it. Like, the fall sometimes can be a grind here, but like the spring is like the best time of the year for sure. So
what are kind of the key things that you guys need to maybe lock in on and work on for first game of the season these next couple of weeks?
Just to like continue to find out like who we are as a team and what we do well. Like, it's going to change from year to year. Like the 19 team obviously had like a ton of talent, and then like it just varies from year to year.
Allen was named preseason player of the year. What is it like, you know, going up against him in practice? And obviously you guys are two of the best in the conference at your positions.
For sure, I love it. I feel like he's always challenging me in like ways that I can try to get him out. And like, we're scrimmaging tomorrow, so I really hope like I get an opportunity to face him, because like I feel like it can prepare me for more than anything I'm going to see this spring, because obviously he's a very talented hitter.
The conference tournament is so important, and obviously didn't go your way last year. So how important is it to kind of build the resume as much as you can starting in game one? So in a perfect world, you don't even have to worry about the conference tournament.
For sure, it's not looking at any game more important than the other, just focusing on the game that's being played that day and taking it one game at a time, one series at a time.
I'm good. That's it. Easy as that.
John, do you want to get a question in before I let Dylan go?
Sure. What'd you work on? You had all off season. What'd you try to put this on?
For me, a point of emphasis for me is just continuing to refine who I am as a pitcher and building off of strengths and weaknesses from what I did last spring and last summer. So
You pitched in the that pro league, right? The draft league.
Yep.
I know it's like kind of limited, you know, like 9-10 innings or whatever. But what did you learn from that experience? What can that do for you, do you think, going into the season?
yeah, so it was a great experience going out there. It was the inaugural like season that happened, and I was actually a relief pitcher out there, so it gave me like different perspective about kind of like what our relievers see when they're here and how much different it is than having like a set 7-day routine and having to go like whenever your name is called.
Gotcha. So, what, did you really let loose then? As a really,
Yes.
like, I mean, you're only throwing a couple innings, one inning at a time, so you could just sort of like,
For sure.
it's maybe less as a longer game strategy there.
100%. Yeah.
What's the level of excitement getting back out here with the guys and finally playing some ball?
It's very high. We're all really excited. We're all ready to get going, and yeah, the energy in the locker room and among the players has been great, and I think we're all really excited to get going.
Glenn kind of listed those titles, I guess you can add to your resume now. Is it going to be harder to maybe sneak up on pitching this year, where last year maybe you weren't on the scouting report?
Sure. Yeah, oh yeah, well, I mean, you know, a part of this fall was trying to learn, you know, maybe some things that the new ways that they'll try to pitch me this year. But whatever they come at me with, hopefully I have an answer, and just do my best with it.
Did you notice some changes last year even in terms of like how teams as the season went on?
Yeah, I mean,
pitch you?
absolutely. In the Big East tournament, it was definitely different than, you know, previous games against those teams that we saw, but just making adjustments and you know, staying up with the times and getting better is, you know, always more important than anything they can do to me. So.
With all the accolades you've earned so far in the preseason accolades, is it hard not to put pressure on yourself and try not to do too much because you want to live up to those?
I mean, yeah, but keeping it simple is really what's important, and going back to your fundamentals, which is really just trying to help your team win. You know, if you go back to that, that'll help you put everything that you would do personally in perspective, and if your team ends up winning in the end, you know, you had a good day. So.
The sun's out, but I definitely see snow.
I don't see too much snow.
Okay, I see some right there. Not on the field. How are you guys gonna handle the? I mean, it's classic Nebraska weather for the start of baseball season.
It's sunny. There's no wind. We can put long sleeves on. We're ready to go.
What is this group hoping to accomplish over the next couple of weeks leading up to that season opener?
Just get ready to play game 1 against Portland. You know, you always have those goals. You know, win the Big East regular season. But you know, you gotta take one game at a time. Like I said, keep it simple, one game at a time. So really, just get better now, and then once that time comes, get ready for Portland.
Did you take some? I can't remember. You take some reps at first base in the fall?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yep, I'll be out there today, and maybe a little bit in the outfield, but probably the majority at first.
What'd you think about that experience? Change of positions, definitely different, totally different than the outfield. What were some of the things you learned about playing there in the fall and hope to take into this year if you do contribute there?
Yeah, I mean, I played a little bit of infield in high school. Obviously, that's pretty far out at this point, but
yeah.
Just trying to get comfortable and learning how to play first. You know, there are definitely more intricacies to it than might meet the eye, but just getting more comfortable with it is really huge right now for me. So that's what I'm about doing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know if you're in. Yeah, it's the same side of the field because you play a lot of right field, right?
Yeah, a little bit of both, but yeah,
you were
mainly right.
okay.
Yep.
So, no. Yeah.
What's it like going up against Tebrake in practice? Is it kind of an iron sharpens iron type situation?
Hopefully we get some of that tomorrow, and I'll really get to see what he's got. But yeah, mainly, I love facing Dylan because, like you said, he's really, really good, and so it's always, it always makes you better to see people who are better than you. So it's really gonna be fun.
How much do you want to see this team get to the postseason and see their name up on the screen on Selection Monday?
Oh, very much. That would be. I mean, that's basically all I want at this point. You know, everyone's striding to get to that point, and we have a long, long way to go. But we're really excited to get started on getting there for sure.
I guess lastly, just what did it mean to kind of get that preseason Player of the Year honor after more or less your first full season in this conference?
You know, it feels good to be recognized and to have that accolade, but you know, it's called the preseason award for a reason, and that's because it comes before the season. So now we just have to go out and prove it, and you know, that's all I'm focused on.
Ed, do you always look forward to this day of the year?
Yeah, the first days, especially when you get a chance to go outside. I mean, I think this has happened one other time during my time here at Creighton, so you know, you're always excited, but even more so when you get a chance to go outside. And then I'm excited too because this is a good group of guys. They've done everything we've asked them to do up to this point. Now we're going to see how it looks on the field. So hopefully we're going to have a good day today, and then we'll find out a little bit more tomorrow when we scrimmage.
What's the main thing you guys got to accomplish between now and the first game?
Well, we got to learn how to practice. That's the first step. You know, learn how to practice fast. Our fall got kind of interrupted a little bit with some things that took place, so we weren't able to accomplish as much as we had hoped in the fall. So I'm looking forward to the first couple of days, just learning how to practice, getting everybody up to speed. The faster we practice, the faster we can play. I think the more successful we'll be.
Dylan, how much is he, with all his accolades and preseason accolades, how much is he going to set the tone out there on the mound?
Well, it's nice to have a guy like that coming back. You know, a lot of times, you know, you're trying to figure out who your Friday night guy is going to be, you know. And we've known that since the draft last summer when he did not get drafted, that we had our Friday night guy locked in. And now we just got to keep him healthy. And, you know, with Dylan, he's such a hard worker. Sometimes you got to pull him back a little bit. You don't have to say that about a lot of athletes, but Dylan's one of those ones. So it gives you a chance to get your series started off on the right foot. That Friday night guys are huge in college baseball, and we think we got one of the best guys.
So with you mentioned how you don't want him to overwork. I mean, does that mean you limit his innings at the start of the year, or you go at it full bore as you normally would?
No, we always have a pitch count early on in the year, but I think what we got to do with Dylan more is between starts. We got to be smarter with him. We got to pull him back a little bit. He's a well-conditioned athlete. We got to maybe pull him back on that a little bit and keep him fresher. He kind of ran out of gas just a little bit last year, and last year was such a interesting year. But we'll be smarter with him. We know him better. He knows us better. That's the beauty of being an upperclassman, is they are a little bit more comfortable in communicating with me, and so we'll do a good job with him. But that's our focus, is keep him fresh.
How important will some of these non-conference games be when it comes to end of the season and you hoping you don't have to rely on the Big East tournament to get a spot in the tournament?
Well, all these games have always been important for us here at Creighton, because we like to have options, like you mentioned, at the end of the season and not go into the tournament feeling like we have to win it. That's a lot of pressure on a club. These games are always important. We'll look at that first game as Portland here in 3 weeks as being, hey, the most important game we play that year, and then Saturday's game will be the same. And we got to find out about a couple players too. We got some positions that are really kind of competitive. We're not sure what we're going to do at the DH role. We're not 100% sure what we're going to do at first base. And so we got some things we got to kind of clear up a little bit in those first couple games. You're trying to find that out, and at the same time, you're trying to be successful.
What do you expect from Allen this year? Obviously, he had a great year last year, but this year, probably going to be at the top of the scouting report for just about every team you face.
Yeah, he's not going to sneak up on anybody anymore. But, Allen is a tremendous worker. His preparation is right up there near the top of anybody we've had here. And even though he understands that he's going to get pitched a little differently, it's important for us to have someone behind him who can really take advantage of that. And so they have to pitch to Allen. And I'm not sure who that player is going to be yet. That's what we hopefully will find out sooner than later. But that position behind Allen is huge this year because we want Allen to see some pitches. And he's got a good command of the strike zone. He's everything you want in a hitter. He's got a little power. He can run the bases. I mean, one of his goals this summer was to go out and steal bases, and he stole 28 of them in the summer league that he played in. And that was an area that he wasn't necessarily as strong in. So the key to Allen's success, I think, will not be Allen. It'll be the guy behind him.
What do you think about, you mentioned position battles, first base, DH. Where else are you watching even these next 3 weeks as you work to solidify the lineup?
Catching position. We brought a transfer in, Brant Voth, who didn't participate a lot in the fall because of an injury. He's healthy now. We believe that he has the ability to do it, but we haven't seen much of it yet. So these first couple of weeks of practices, I'm really anxious to see how he responds tomorrow in a scrimmage kind of a format. But we have to get that catching situation solidified. There's no doubt. I mean, we've been blessed here. We've had some outstanding catchers throughout my years here, and you can't be the defensive team we want to be without a guy behind the plate. So we got 2 freshmen behind them. We think these guys are going to be fine players too, but that's a big jump. That's a big jump coming from high school to be a catcher at this level with the kind of amount of responsibilities we give our catchers. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that all shakes out here in the next few weeks.
Allen was saying he's just focused on wins and getting this team to the NCAA tournament. In your history here with your best teams, how important is it that some of your best players have that team-first mentality?
Well, you're not going to do it without. There's no gray matter in there. You have to have your best players. First of all, have to be your best workers. I think Dylan Tebrake and Alan Roden are our best workers. And then they have to be unselfish players. And even though those guys have aspirations of playing at the next level, I don't mind that at all. We want all our players to have those aspirations, but it can't be number one. It can't destroy what we're trying to do as a team. And with Dylan and Allen, I don't worry 2 seconds about that. These are about as good as it gets. These guys get the whole deal when it comes to college, being a student athlete. They're excellent in the classroom, and they're pretty darn good on the field too, and they're great teammates. So that's one of the reasons I'm excited about this year's club is our better players get that part. And that's not always the case in the type of players that are playing college baseball now. That's not a given.
How much?
You got Dylan. How many players are you looking at for those 2 and 3, maybe
Well,
even 4th starter roles?
You know, we believe we got probably about 5 starters. You know, I think we're going to be better equipped to play midweek games, something we really haven't done now for 2 years, you know. We got Cade Lamel, who was pitching on Sundays last year for us. We anticipate Cade will jump into the Saturday position. We got a transfer from Notre Dame that we believe is going to slide into the Saturday role. We're still not sure. He's rehabbing. He's looking good. You know, we got to be smart and careful with him. We got another transfer out of Oklahoma by the name of Tommy Lamb, who's a left-hander. We believe Tommy's going to be in that mix. We got Hudson Leach, who returned last year, who was really pitching on Sundays a lot for us last year. He's a sophomore. He's back. He seems to be healthy. So we have much more depth on the mound than we've had with many of our teams. A lot of folks don't know these guys because they're kind of relatively new, but they can pitch a little bit. So I'm really excited about the depth we have. And then I also like the back side of the bullpen, or the back side of the pitching staff with Tommy Steyer back there and Paul Bergstrom, who had a big year for us. So, you know, things are lined up for us. If we can stay healthy, we have as much pitching depth as we probably have ever had.
You have added some transfers. You know, I think everyone's using the transfer portal and making changes to the roster. How has that changed how you roster build, you know, put together a team? Because obviously you're going to potentially be relying on some key transfers this year.
You know, that's a good question, and I think we're all trying to figure that out, not just in college baseball, I think across the board. You know, how much do you depend on these guys? Can they make the adjustment to your system? Was there a reason why they left? Why did they leave the other program? So I like our transfers that we were able to get. They've fit in very well. I think they're all going to really contribute. And when you go to that transfer portal, you know, you want a guy that can step in and contribute. You don't want necessarily looking for a backup player. So the question will be, how much do we rely on that? I would anticipate that we would get 1 or 2 transfers a year. I don't think we're going to go with a 5 or 6 route. It does give you an instant fix. You know, it can kind of plug a hole. So if you lose, like we did 2 years ago where we lost 7 players, you might have went into the transfer portal a little bit more on that particular year. But I think it's going to be interesting these next couple of years. I worry a little bit about it, but I think we've jumped into a whole new era here of college athletics with this transfer stuff.
Alan, how beneficial is it for Alan and Dylan to be able to go up against each other and kind of, you know, get to face the best of the best?
Yeah, it's fun. I enjoy these scrimmages. Sometimes the players have trouble with these scrimmages because, you know, they're going up against their friends, these guys they room with and stuff, and it's hard for them to get their competitive juices going. But I think tomorrow will be a little different because we've never scrimmaged this early before. They know that they're outside. They didn't anticipate being outside at this time of year, so they're going to put all those friendships to the side for a couple hours tomorrow, and they'll get after each other. I hope they do anyways, because there'll be a lot of eyes on those guys. You know, our young players, our freshmen who have really not experienced a Division I game yet, are curious to see how Dylan and Alan handle this competitive stuff, because these guys are all good players. They wouldn't be here. The separator is their competitive spirit and who can compete better than others. And that's why Dylan and Alan have risen to the top, because they know how to compete.
It's interesting. Is it just because of weather for the early scrimmage?
Yeah.
Is that, yeah?
Yeah, we would never do it.
Right.
I mean, I part of me doesn't feel comfortable in it, you know, but I've looked at the forecast and there's potential some stuff rolling in the midweek that could make us not outside for a while. I would be disappointed if we went into the Portland series not having a chance to do any of that.
Yeah.
And that's happened many years, so it wouldn't be totally unusual, but I would be saying, geez, I should have probably went out that first weekend and tried to do some stuff. And we'll be very smart about what we do tomorrow. We'll be very cautious, and we're going to have a strict pitch limit with some of these guys. So we're going to proceed carefully, but at the same time, we got to get some things figured out. And baseball, in the Midwest is so interesting because you'll play your first game. It'll be your first time outside a lot of times, and this year we won't be able to say that. We'll have at least 5 or 6 workouts outside, and hopefully we're better prepared to play Portland than we would if we're inside.
How much of a difference can that make actually getting a couple practices outside leading up to the first game?
Well, huge. I mean, several years ago we were able to scrimmage twice before we went out to play Cal State Bakersfield. We went out there and swept them. And the team was really prepared. I mean, and we dominated those games. We didn't beat them 3-2. We dominated, and I could just sense that the guys really felt comfortable coming off the bus. There's been other years when we haven't been outside that the guys were, edgy and very anxious and not quite sure what was going to happen. And we played like that, And so my goal is that we are comfortable. We can get some things accomplished, that it's not just the next 4 or 5 days, that we get out a few more times besides that. But it makes a huge difference for us to have the opportunity to do this.
Hey, what did your guys say when you told them they were going to scrimmage?
Yeah, they were probably surprised. They
Yeah.
know I'm not a big scrimmage guy,
That's right, that's what I was
and they're
thinking.
going like, Jesus, is this guy, has he changed that much, or is he losing it a little bit, or what, because they just know that, I'm not. But in this case, with every decision I try to make, I look at the positives and the negatives, and I felt the positives outweighed the negatives of us doing this. Now, ask me tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and I might say it was probably a dumb decision on my part, but because I don't know what we're going to do defensively, and I don't know how, we might have pitchers kind of feeling for the zone a little bit. It may get kind of choppy and ugly at times, but I'd rather have that in a practice setting than the first game out of Portland.